the industry does move fast. There's trends and everything, but really like doing your research first and not just jumping on the trend because it's a trend.
This is the Aesthetics Growth Podcast.
Hey everyone, it's Bref, and I'm back with another episode of the Aesthetics Growth Podcast. And today I'm really excited to welcome Katie Robinson, coming all the way from Kentucky, from Lexington. Katie is an incredible entrepreneur, a mother of two. She's really been kind of bridging gaps within the aesthetic medicine industry and within the industries of integrational and functional medicine. And Katie's an educator in this space. As we said before the show, she's got a lot of really, really impactful, inspiring work going on that will be able to resonate with you no matter what stage of growing your aesthetics practice you are at. Katie, welcome to the show. Super excited to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Brett.
Absolutely. Well, I'd love to kind of let you take it from the top a little bit, Katie. For anybody who perhaps doesn't know you, doesn't know part of your story, how did you get started within the aesthetics industry, and what's your background that got you moving along in this direction?
So I was an ER nurse for the beginning of my nursing career. And when I finished NP school, I started working as a nurse practitioner and then got a position in aesthetics. Really wasn't anything that I knew anything about. Was just kind of position I was interested in and got into it. That was about 7 years ago. Really grew to love aesthetics from there. But I think we all have some of those stories of being shown how to do everything the wrong way and learning based off that experience how to do it the right way. So I came from a practice that was, I think, doing things not exactly the way that from my nursing and medical career that I knew should be done. I think a lot of us have a similar story of maybe working for a practice that didn't do things quite, walked a very gray line. And I think in medical aesthetics, the industry as a whole is a little bit of a gray line as far as medicine. So it's a great starting point for me because I did learn a really good way of what not to do. So going from there, decided that I felt like I could do things a lot better, treat people a lot better. So my business partners and I decided to open our own practice, which is For Aesthetics Lounge here in Lexington, Kentucky. And then from that, we've grown a big practice. We're in the middle of a renovation and doubling our size right now. And then through all of that, a bunch of networking has occurred, which is I think one of the most unique things about medical aesthetics is the networking and friendships that you get to make in this part of medicine. And you really kind of have to have that to have connections because when you're out of primary care, you lose a lot of kind of that hand holding that you get from treating people medically. So having these contacts within the industry is super important to make sure I always have an extra resource to reach out to for patients, which has really led into other aspects that I've created. We started a nonprofit here in Kentucky called the Kentucky Association of Medical Aesthetic Providers. And that also stemmed from an event, having a complication with a patient and needing more resources and no one willing to help. So we wanted to create it's a nonprofit organization for all providers in Kentucky to have a resource bank to pull from when they need help or assistance, and a really good networking community as well. And then I am a clinical educator as well for my own practice, for another training company. And then I do a lot of independent stuff on the side too.
Wow. All right. Well, there's lots of breakdown there. And one thing that really stood out to me through what you just said there is there's kind of like a real network effect to how you've grown your business, grown your career, connected a lot of dots together. And, with For Aesthetics Lounge, you got business partners together. Maybe we'll just start there. How did that look for you? Was it medical colleagues of yours in the area? How did you get For Aesthetics Lounge off the ground? And then we can kind of, parlay from there, because there's been a lot of momentum that you've obviously been able to establish with KMAP and with the clinical education as well.
So my business partners came from the practice we were all at.
Mm-hmm.
We were at a practice that was really walking the gray line, and we really felt like we could we just knew we could do it better. We didn't, but based on the business side of things, we had no idea what we were doing, but we knew we could do it better. So we hired a business coach. She really helped us kind of get going, get over the hurdle of, oh my God, I never thought I was going to own a business, and now I own a business. We knew how to medically treat the patients and how to take care of them really well. But we just didn't know the business aspect of things. So we have always had someone on our side for that. And again, that was just from networking. This is someone that one of my business partners knew from college that now was a business coach. And so really, like you said, every step of the way, it's always been like, who can I meet and connect with to really better my circle? So it really is all about networking. And anytime I'm at any kind of conference or anything like that, I'm always just trying to meet people to just grow my circle so that you always have those people to reach out to and they can reach out to you. And it's really good to have that in this industry.
That's awesome. What were some of the things you mentioned where you've done differently? Because you kind of saw, and I always will talk to people about my story, when you're growing in life and growing a business or working for other practices or businesses, you kind of learn the good and the bad, right? Things like, oh, I would do more of that. That's awesome. I had a great mentor moment there. I'm probably not going to do things that way. What kind of things did you like, and things did you see that maybe you wanted to go a different direction from, Katie?
I think there's two different aspects of that. Some was, how staff should be treated, how patients should be treated. A big motto I always go by is trying to treat everyone better than anyone else. So whether it's treating my staff that way or treating our patients that way, definitely that's kind of how you keep your team, you keep your culture. And then another aspect is on the medical side of things. Medical aesthetics is highly unregulated in a lot of states. And so just we are, and I'm sure you can tell already by meeting me, we're extremely big on education and evidence-based research, and our practice really stays within the realm of that. And there's a lot of practices that aren't, and maybe they don't know to be, just because it can be very vague in what you can do. And there are a lot of places out there doing it the wrong way. And there's a lot of people doing it the right way or trying really hard to do it the right way. And so creating, kind of a best practice for the industry is what we're driven to do here.
Awesome. Awesome. So this kind of, I think this will connect some dots as well with For Aesthetics Lounge, and also, with the Kentucky Association of Medical Aesthetic Providers. Maybe a little bit different, right? Because one is you're kind of, it's direct to patient, you're educating patients, and the other side, it's that collaborative opportunity to
Right.
grow as an association.
Mhm.
What kind of educational approach, Katie, have you been taking on the patient side? What's been really helpful in growing your business, and type of approach that you and your partners take on that side of educating patients on their journey to coming in and getting the best outcomes through the services that you provide?
So this is one thing that I feel sets our practice apart from any other practice is the education that we provide our patients. And the patients, a lot of times when they do come into our practice, if they've been somewhere else, they're always like, "Oh my gosh, I've never been told that. I didn't even know I was supposed to be doing that." So I think a lot of times we practices or providers don't educate because they feel they might be talking over the patient's head. But I do feel like it's what creates trust between myself and a patient is educating them. In all aspects of their care. So sometimes I might be talking over their head a little bit, but they appreciate that and they really feel like they trust me because I know a lot. So we don't really tone down the amount of education we give our patients. We sit with them a lot. Our appointment times are carved out so that we have time to talk to them. We make them all come back for follow up so they see us a lot as well. So I really feel like the education piece to what we do here at our practice is what really sets us aside from other practices.
Awesome. Awesome. How long do you typically do that initial new patient consultation for?
An hour and a half.
Uh, and for anybody listening, like, because again, there's different approaches, right? And that in-depth consultation where you get to, number one, start that relationship, which I think
Mhm.
it's overlooked sometimes as well. Educating that patient, because like you said, there's can be a lot to absorb, right?
Right.
And one thing that we'll see, Katie, a little bit depending on the practice, is some will have a patient that comes in, and we call them kind of sometimes the Groupon hunters. They're
Yeah.
coming in looking for Botox or whatnot. But it's when somebody comes in looking for something, right? They're sometimes in a very vulnerable place. Like, yeah, I'm coming for Botox, but that's not really what they want, right? They don't care if it's
Right.
Botox or whatnot. How do you kind of break down some of those barriers? Because you may have patients that are different shapes and sizes, right? Some have maybe heard about you from somewhere, they've been referred by a friend. Some might be new to town. They're kind of trying to figure out like, are you for them, or and you're trying to figure out are they for you? How does your approach, maybe your culture and the education and communication that you do make those patients at ease so that they are coming back, like you said, for that next visit and the next visit and developing a relationship with your team?
Well, we start all of our consultations with introducing ourselves and sharing a little bit about ourselves so they can get to know us. A lot of our patients do know us quite a bit from social media, so they come in feeling like they know us already. They know about my kids, they know about my family. But we usually try and share a little bit about ourselves. We share our mission with them, and then we tell them all about like the company, and that's kind of the spiel, honestly, the scripting that we give all of our team members so that it's very cohesive no matter who they see. But then we take a minute to really learn about their lives. We'll ask what they do for work. Do they have kids? Do they travel a lot? You're also learning a lot about, when you're learning about them, you're learning about what's going to be a timeline of treatment. What are we working for during their treatments? What kind of downtime do they have? What's their lifestyle like? So these are just things I'm kind of checking off the checklist in my brain as well. And then
Mm,
also kind of to what you said, when they just come in looking for Botox, like finding out why, like what is it that what's going to change for you if you were to get this Botox? So kind of figuring out what the triggers were for them to come in, because a lot of times it can be something totally different. I have a lot of patients that, we do aesthetic medicine. We also do some functional medicine aspects of hormone therapy, weight loss, some wellness treatments here too. So a lot of times our patients will come in and they'll say, "Well, I'm just so tired. I want to look like I'm not tired." And
mm.
well, I can give you some Botox, but why are we tired? So then we'll have a whole different conversation of, let me check your blood work while you're here today. This might not be something you're interested in, but we can go through your labs and kind of see, why are you so tired? You shouldn't be so tired. I can't fix your tiredness with Botox. I can give, you know. So a lot of times it's really just kind of figuring out what the trigger was
Mm,
for them to come into our door. So that's really why we carve out the hour and a half. The hour and a half also gives you some time to be able to do a little treatment a day. Let's say our consultation runs shorter, right? Like some patients aren't going to engage in the conversation you're trying to strike up with them. They're just like, no, I'm just here for that Botox. So that's fine. We have some time for treatment that day, and I can still give them their full treatment plan. And then others, we talk the entire time when we book their next appointment. But it really gives a little bit of flexibility to patients that travel to us. We do get quite a few patients that come an hour and a half or 2 hours away. So
mm.
it gives some flexibility that they could potentially get a service that day as well too.
That's amazing. I mean, so many gold nuggets contained within that as well for our audience. I think one thing that stood out to me in the top there, and I think this is down to the business kind of development, maybe coaching that you've been doing, is there's a cohesion, there's congruency with what you and your team, kind of a framework that you're
Mhm.
all using and singing off the same sheet, so that there's kind of a quality standard for every patient interaction. I'd love if you wouldn't mind just peeling back a few layers on that with how you kind of implement that through the different aspects of your practice, because that in itself, having those frameworks, or what we sometimes we call like SOPs or standard
Yeah.
operating procedures, is really gold within just the operational effectiveness, but also the that new patient experience, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a big part of the business aspect of it all. And if you ask me, I love the clinical side more than the business side. But
Okay,
yeah,
we'll dig into that. Sure.
yeah, there's definitely we have scripting for everything we do. So the front desk answers the phone the same way every time. Or if I'm answering the phone, I'm going to answer it just like the girls at the front desk answer it. Um, how we answer questions about our services, whether it's on the phone with a non-provider talking to the patient, or the providers are talking to the patient in the rooms, how the SOPs that we create, how, if you have a patient who's upset, what framework are you going to work through first? If you have to refund something, what framework are you going to work through first? So that everyone feels like there's a resource for what they're doing on staff and they don't feel kind of lost, especially like if, an owner or a manager wasn't in house, that they feel like they have all the tools they need to do their job no matter what situation they're in. But it is, I will tell you, Leo, I was in business probably for a couple years before we really even started drafting these things, because when it's just you, especially, and there's a lot of owners and providers out there that they're just running a solo show. They're the provider and they also own the practice, and they don't really have a big team with them. But I would say from a business aspect, now is the time to create those SOPs, because that's one thing that if I was going to go back and do something a little different is, I started creating them after I had staff, after I realized like, oh my gosh, this she's doing it one way and she's doing it another way. We've all got to get on the same page. And that it does mean a lot for your patients, because there's going to be a day you're sick or on maternity leave and someone else is going to see your patient, and you don't want them being like, she does it totally different from you, I don't want to see her again, or, or vice versa. You want them to feel like if you're out, and you don't want your practice built off of a single provider either. So if you're gone, you don't want your patients to leave. You want them to be like, well, I know everyone there is great. I can see so-and-so while she's gone.
For sure.
Hey, so a quick message, then we'll get right back to the show. This episode is brought to you by ClinicGrower, my growth marketing agency that helps medical spas and aesthetic practices to scale sustainably with multi-channel marketing, with smart automation and real-world conversion strategies. Now, I know that might sound a little bit vague, and that's because growing your business isn't really a one-size-fits-all formula. Every practice is going to be different, and so should your marketing plan too. So at ClinicGrower, we offer a completely free marketing audit, a growth plan that's customized for you and for your business. This is going to include a full analysis of your current presence, your current marketing, your local competition, and also a roadmap, a growth plan designed to help you to attract more high quality patients and to increase your revenue and to grow your business. So if you want to scale with clarity and confidence, just head over to clinicgrower.com/schedule to book your free consultation. That's clinicgrower.com/schedule. Now back to the show.
There's a kind of a mentor of mine, Alex Sharfman, would say systems and processes will set you free. And sometimes we have to do the catch-up work, pain of creating them. I can tell what you said there, that you've got to be like working with patients on the clinical side and doing the SOPs. But when it comes to growing the business, I can tell from what you said too that they've been a real cornerstone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe like starting to flip it a little bit towards the clinical side. You're passionate about sort of that overlap and that integration with aesthetics and functional medicine. And what you mentioned earlier, just about that new patient consultation, somebody coming in for Botox, unless you ask those questions, unless you develop that relationship so they can give that information about, I want the Botox because of XYZ. I'm thinking about getting some lip fillers, but man, I'm always tired as well. So you're having that conversation, and then you and your team are doing an incredible job of integrating the functional side with the aesthetics and providing a really comprehensive, true like treatment plan to help people to look better, feel better, and be better versions of themselves. Would love to I know you're passionate about this, so would love to hear more about, the importance of that for your practice and how you and the team have been growing the business, with the combination there as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very interesting, and I'm always learning still. So I think it's really interesting the connection that the functional medicine has with aesthetic medicine, and the more you dig into it, you realize that you can't really have a practice one without the other. I feel we just brought on the functional medicine aspect of it about 2 years ago. So we're really we're still learning how to integrate. We're always learning how to, mesh these two sides of the practice together and mesh those patients together as well. But they do have a lot to do with each other. And so really those conversations with your patients are super important. Yes, you'll have some patients come in asking for both. Or maybe you'll have your patients that come in for hormones, start feeling better, and then they're ready to look better, and you are able to offer all of that. But I think it's really important that you at least have some knowledge of what's going on, because one example I like to use with my patients a lot of times is the connection between estrogen and collagen. And a lot of, the industry is very much moving towards biostimulation and collagen production, this integrative type of medicine. But if we're not taking care of our patients missing estrogen first, we're kind of doing them a disservice, because they're not going to be able to benefit from all of these collagen stimulators that we're injecting. So I think it's really interesting to know how it kind of correlates with each other. And that's just one tiny aspect of it all, right? But that's something I primarily see a bunch of women. I mean, we have males as well, but that's something I like to talk to them about. And when I do have a full consultation and a patient that is interested in everything that we do here, their question is, where do I start? And so I'll usually say, let's start with, let me draw your blood work. Let me check your labs. And then we typically will start with optimizing their hormones before we start with their injectables, because I want to fix them basically from the inside out first, and get them feeling good. But then also that's going to have so much more aspect. If you have a postmenopausal woman who is low in estrogen, and then after we can get her estradiol replaced, we can get her skin looking better. She's producing more collagen. The collagen we're injecting is doing a better job. All the treatments we're doing it's just all going to give her a much more thorough result. more comprehensive.
Right. That's interesting. And the fact they've introduced the functional medicine in the last couple of years, what percentage would you say of your treatment plans now involve functional?
Mine personally, pretty much all of them. Not all of my providers do the functional side, but they are all educated in order to be able to consult a patient in terms, or at least send those patients my way. But I would say a good, it's still pretty new to us. So probably 30% of our patients are getting these consults right now. As far
Gotcha.
as like meshing them over, which is a really good. Within 2 years, we've had well over 200 patients go with both sides of the aspect of the clinic, as far as aesthetics and the wellness side too.
That's fantastic. And I love that too, because, do you find then that you're now attracting more new clients, more new patients because they're being educated through your social media, through the updates, how you're getting the word out there, but they're coming because, yeah, some are interested in aesthetics, but some are coming because of the functional medicine, and you're just attracting from different ways now as well.
Oh yeah, yeah. It definitely it helps the kind of when you're looking at like your profits and your ROI of your business. The turnaround for like what you make on the aesthetic medicine side when you're talking about just business wise, you really kind of lose a lot of that money when you start paying other providers. So if it's just not you anymore. So you really have to have a good mix of these different kind of buckets of services that you're offering, to be able to have a good ROI all around, get good profit margins for the company, but also in the same breath, so beneficial for the patients too. Yeah. So it's been really unique. It's truly something I never thought I would bring on. But we could see the shift in the industry. And I was like, I really need to get educated on these things to see if this is something we'd be interested in. And then as soon as I started jumping down the rabbit hole of education, I was like, we have to have this. And, I think like the weight loss that has become a big boom in the last 2 years is really unique as well, because that pulls a lot of patients in that you would have never seen before.
Right.
And those definitely cross over well with your hormone patients. Those patients definitely need their hormones
Right.
optimized. And so it's really unique. We've gotten a new mixture of clientele from those aspects.
Brilliant. And Kenny, you mentioned a few times, kind of, it's been a common theme here is the education piece. And can you talk a little bit about how that's really been like a non-negotiable? Like I can tell that, an educator is in your DNA. The fact that you've started KMAP, at the core of growing your med spa, education is a pillar stone as well. And obviously you're a clinical educator as well. I'd love just to, you to maybe connect some of those dots and talk about that, the educational importance and how it's really helped to develop your career and also impact the industry as well.
I think a lot of times aesthetic medicine gets a little bit marketed as like, oh, let's go to a course and then you could just do it, right? That's a much more fun thing to do as a nurse than working in the bedside in the ER. Then that's what we see a lot of these providers coming out as. And not to say we haven't all done it. I think when I first was trained on how to inject, I was in a practice already, but it was just, here's how you do it. Go on, you're seeing patients now. And so that was a little piece of what I was never going to do when I started my own practice. So when I onboard a provider, they are shadowing us for months. They get so many trainings before they start seeing patients by themselves, because it really builds a different confidence level. Uh, Nursing at the bedside and nursing in medical aesthetics is very different, right? All of a sudden you come into the room, you think it sounds fun, and then you go to inject someone's face, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is their face though. And so the education is what gives the confidence behind what you're doing, and it's also what provides the results. I think as a nurse, I can say from a nursing background, it's just ingrained in your DNA that you're going to be a forever learner. So I love learning and sharing that with other people. So my staff gets really educated all the time, because and they educate me. They'll come and they're like, "Oh, I read an article. Did you hear about this?" As I'm going into a treatment, I'm like, "Oh, wait, no, tell me really quick before I go do this." And it changes the way I treat patients on a weekly basis. And so I think it's easy to get stuck on certain ways that you do certain things, but the medical aesthetics is growing so fast, and we're learning so much. The research changes so quickly. I don't do things the way I did things even a few months ago sometimes. So I think you have to want to be a learner and be on top of either finding the education yourself if you don't have someone that's handing it to you, because it's changing really quickly, and we want to make sure that we're providing patients with the best care. Um, because for the best long-term results too.
Right, right, for sure. And on the patient side, we know you're delivering and providing incredible outcomes. How about then shifting a little bit to almost with your colleagues as well? And can you talk a little bit about the impact of the integrative aesthetic fellowship, and also how KMAP is helping fellow providers and also patients in the broader community as well?
Yeah, I think it's just really hard to find education sometimes in this aspect. So, um, first of all, I'll touch on KMAP. So KMAP really provides regular education to providers in Kentucky. And the reason why I keep saying Kentucky, we do a lot of legal advocacy through KMAP. And so right now we just don't have the bandwidth to be another to look at the legal stuff in other states. But we try to keep all of our members that are part of the organization up to date with any kind of changes or updates to law in Kentucky. But we also provide CEs that are aesthetic medicine driven, which is impossible to find as a nurse and as if you're a physician, PA, you need CEs or CMEs a certain amount every year. So we're providing that so that it's easier access to get to than trying to having to figure this out on your own. I know a lot of new providers will reach out to me and they're just like, "Well, I don't even know where to start. Where do I go? I don't even know where to get this information from." But easier access to education. And then through IAF, the Integrative Aesthetic Fellowship, that is again is another training platform that we created that is evidence-based, up-to-date education that providers will get quality education out of, like thorough education, not inject these 5 dots with this many units and that's how you do Botox. Um, so being able to kind of, I guess, put it more out there in the open of like, where can I get really good education that I can trust, right? Because I mean, a lot of what we learn or see the fad is these injectors on social media, which some of them are fabulous. And I do change sometimes my treatments based off of that. But you have to ask yourself, like, is what they're doing the right way? And so you kind of have to fact check everything you're seeing. And so through KMAP and IAF, we're creating different platforms for providers to be able to find the tools that they need to provide safe care.
Awesome. How many members do you have both in IAF and KMAP right now, and how are you getting the word out on both of those platforms?
So with KMAP, we have over 100 members. They're Kentucky-based providers, a few estheticians as well. We, as faculty, we meet monthly, and then we typically monthly or quarterly, we have some sort of type of networking event for any provider in Kentucky to come to. And this is through social media and word of mouth. Our reps really help spread the word about KMAP. And a lot of times when they get approached about KMAP, it's, oh, we have a provider that has a complication that needs assistance. What do you guys think? And KMAP provides that network. So our members who sign up for KMAP are really doing that so that they have a support if they were to have a problem. We do a Hylenex share. We offer ultrasound support. And then they just have this network where they can just ask injectors, I have this happening. What would you do? Or, hey, I'm thinking about doing this treatment. What do you guys think about this? Or I'm thinking about bringing on this new EMR system. Do you guys like it? It really just provides like these little sounding boards for everyone. And then there's obviously the education behind that as well.
Yeah.
And then for IAF, this is our training platform that we are just starting up. So we've launched online educational tools that a provider could purchase, and then they would sign up for a hands-on course after that. But the whole mission behind IAF is to get providers away from this weekend injection course. I'm going to go inject. So as we're building this platform and getting it going, we're actually trying to create a 6-month fellowship program where a provider could say, oh, I want to do it all. And if as they complete all of these courses and all of these hands-on trainings, it takes them through every aspect of aesthetic and functional medicine, and where they feel really from basic to advanced, where they really feel well-rounded when they come out of that.
That's fantastic. So you just launched, or in the process of launching?
Just launched our first 2 courses. So the goal is to have all of our courses up so that instead of purchasing a la carte, a provider could say, I want to do this entire fellowship, and they could purchase the fellowship and go through all of that.
Very cool. So I mean, think about that as like that comprehensive treatment plan, right, with the patients. You're like really bringing them all
Right.
the way through.
Hmm.
On the provider side, really equipping providers with those tools to really to do the right thing, best outcomes for the patients holistically, and also from the business side. I mean, that's tremendous as well because you're really equipping them to, like I said, to have more tools in their toolkit to be able to help patients and to grow their business. So that's fantastic, very exciting. Um,
Right.
and on the similar note to what we've been discussing with the educational piece, and you mentioned the changes happening so fast within the industry and the world we live in. What are some of the biggest trends that you're seeing right now, Katie, when it comes to both the clinical aspect and then the business side as well?
Well, the trends are always, I mean, there's a new treatment around the corner every single day. Um, so I think it's really weeding through like, is this something that I want to bring on right away? Is it something I want to sit back and watch? You really kind of have to do the research. I think it's really easy to take what a rep says and be like, oh my gosh, I have to have this product or I have to have this device, I have to have this machine. But kind of the way I've always done things is I usually sit back and wait just a little bit to watch how things play out. Like, what are patient results?
Mm,
What's happening to patients after this? What are the providers feeling like? I've been doing it for 6 months, a year. Are they really liking it, or are they like, oh, I don't know. I've had all these patients come back and they've had these issues. There's just always new things coming out. Different devices, different injectables, things that are supposed to be topical, but people are injecting it, things like that. Just trying to figure out what's right for your practice and what really truly at the end of the day you could sleep at night after you've done it, and not worrying about legalities too. So a lot of things that are coming out, you might want to talk to your lawyer about before bringing it on because they wouldn't recommend it if you're using it in a way that's not approved in certain ways. So I think that it's just, the industry does move fast. There's trends in everything. It's just really hard for me to like, and I don't want to like down any company either. So I won't like name names, but like there's trends in the injectable world. There's trends in the device world. But really like doing your research first,
mm,
and not just jumping on the trend because it's a trend, because I'll tell you, different RF devices were a trend a couple years ago. But if you look at the industry as a whole and you talk to any of these financial companies, they will tell you any company that brought on that particular device can't even sell it now. So these trends do fade. So you want to make sure that you're investing in the trends that are really going to last long term for your practice and for your patients.
that's fantastic. I think the core of that it's make an educated decision, not a
Mhm.
quick decision,
Yeah.
right? Which we know they can be really make it or break it. Smaller practices, kind of betting on the wrong device or something
Right.
can be really bad. So thanks for sharing that. How do you take that approach then? You mentioned kind of investing in those those treatments, those services and equipment or devices that can are built to sustain really to develop long-term outcomes for patients versus maybe a quick trend. What served you well there, making those types of decisions when it comes to things that you have invested in or held back on or actually, moved forward on?
Yeah. Well, I think first of all, it's kind of really like polling your patients to see what your patient base needs.
Hmm.
You would hate to buy a machine that you thought looked really good because you see all these people using it all the time and they're marketing it, but then no one really buys it in your practice. So really listening to your patients. So when we've purchased devices in the past, we're like, oh, we really want this one. Well, we had to see what our patients were interested in, right? What are their concerns? What's the biggest concern? What are you treating all the time? And you feel like, oh man, if I just had something that I could treat this particular thing quicker or better or more efficient, I could really do that. So thinking about like what are your top complaints of patients coming in, or what are your top 5 complaints, and can I get a device that can do all those 5 things?
Hmm.
For example, we have a CO2 machine, laser, and that can treat so many things. But also, would I think a little bit different about buying that CO2 laser if I lived in Tampa, Florida? I probably would think a little bit about that because there's only a small window of time that can treat certain patients, versus Lexington, Kentucky, where there's a lot less hot, sunny weather. So really polling your patients, first of all, and seeing if you have the need for that particular machine. And then on top of that, doing your research behind that, right? Because there's going to be lots of companies. Once you start looking, people start showing up. Reaching out to other providers. Do you have this machine? Have you used it? How long has the machine existed for? And a lot of certain even injectables, they come with clinical studies. You should read through those, because the companies are going to tell you this is the best there is out there, no matter what company you talk to. So you're going to have to figure that out for yourself. Is it? And then, so really the networking, that's where a lot of the networking comes into play. And then doing your research on your end too.
Love it. Yeah, that network effect came through there for sure. And also, when it comes to polling patients, how do you typically do that? You mentioned complaints, maybe you're looking at reviews and things like that. But would you mind just kind of peeling back a little bit more on that? That could be very helpful.
Yeah, I think focus on something. So like if you know like you're interested in something, you could do a focus. You could add it to your consultation sheets, and
Mm,
pull those consultation sheets and start writing those down. So um or you could post on your social media, get some polls there, and you just consistently do it until you feel like you have a really good chunk of numbers, right? You don't just want to do this for a day. You might say, I want
oh,
to take the next 90 days and really ask every patient that comes through the door, and start pulling all those numbers on that and see what you come up with. I think sometimes in a day you could have three different patients ask you the same question, and the feeling that you have is everyone needs that because three patients asked you about that. But if you have thousands of patients, is it still just only those three patients that need that? So really taking it at a much broader view versus, oh yeah, I hear, oh my gosh, they keep saying they have Pronox at this one place. I want to get Pronox. I want to get Pronox. Do your patients really need Pronox? So really like taking a much broader picture, and pretty much anything we do, if we're like testing anything, we're gonna do it for a full quarter instead of looking at it in monthly time frames, to get a better number pool from that.
makes sense. So you got, like you said, you got to have that data, that representative sample. And
Mhm.
what you said kind of reminds me of, most businesses, if they get a bad Google review, it can wreck their day, wreck their week. But you
Yeah,
look at it in the context of like how many good reviews have we got, and
right.
that person had a bad review. Like what's the reasons for it? And similarly with getting the data together to add that new services, you typically, is there kind of a threshold of the number of respondents that you'll typically try and gather before making a decision like that?
I never really put up a specific threshold on it. Sometimes you can kind of know, let's just say it's a machine you're buying. We will work backwards a lot of time. Like this machine costs this. We need to sell this many treatments a month to cover the costs of the machine. And then we need to sell this many treatments a month to make a profit off this machine.
Hmm.
And then you can kind of go from there, like, oh my gosh, we have X amount of patients that want this treatment in a year, or how many patients could we treat with this machine? How many, break that down to how many would be treated a month. If you can get well over that profit margin, then yeah, that sounds like a great machine for you.
Makes sense.
Especially if
Yeah,
you
the,
have the
the math
patients for it.
behind it.
Yeah, a little math.
Mm.
Yeah.
How about, so on the, obviously you're polling for new treatments. You've added a lot of services to your business as you've expanded it, and you're expanding further. What's your favorite treatments to perform?
I love the wellness side of it all. I mean, I am an injector at heart, but I love to do hormone replacement therapy. It's just so rewarding. The patients, it's life changing for these patients that have been depleted for so many years. And then I love that I'm able to do both of them because I get to also see those patients and help refresh them. Even these weight loss patients too. I mean, it's life changing for them. So it's just a very rewarding aspect of being in this industry, being part of the aesthetic side, but also still having a lot of clinical knowledge and treatment and analysis on the back end of treating these wellness patients, because it truly just it's the most rewarding thing I've ever done.
How about on the clinical education side? What do you really have a passion for educating on?
Really all of it, but really the core of like what we do. So like why are we doing everything behind what we're doing? So when it comes to like aesthetics, like why are we going to treat the lateral aspect of the face before the medial aspect of the face, and what's that doing to the face? I think a lot of times we just get taught how to inject, but we don't know what we're changing when we're injecting.
Mm,
I really like to talk to either whether it's my staff members or someone else that I'm educating a lot about, facial aging, the fat pads, anatomy, the vasculature, because it's not something that's touched on enough. And especially when my providers are treatment planning as well, they're like, "Oh, I don't know where to start." Like she's wanting her lower face done. I'm like, we can definitely do a lower face, but we have to understand why we have to do the rest of the face in conjunction with that. So we talk a lot about facial balancing. And then, I mean, I love on the wellness side of treating from the inside out as well. So that's what we talk a lot about. Yes, I could just prescribe you some testosterone injections, but what's that really going to do? We draw all of their labs and we'll talk about any comorbidities and any medicines already on that could be affecting certain testosterone levels, and bringing it all as a whole. We do a lot of thyroid here as well. It is all so connected, and so that's what I train on. It's not a cookie cutter black and white. Like, yes, just prescribe this dose, and now you're doing hormone therapy. There's just a lot more to it.
I get, again, it's coming right back down to the DNA, which of course is the aesthetic, the functional, the
Yeah.
integration there. And I can really sense that from everything you said. How about on the educational side, Katie, when it comes to a favorite conference or learning experience, anything particular that you really like to, to attend there outside of maybe the things you're doing for KMAP?
So conferences are a little unique. We used to do them a lot, and then they got really salesy. But if I was going to take my team to a conference this year, I mean, I have not been to Iceman yet, but I've heard wonderful things as far as it being really evidence based, not salesy, not just sales pitches. I do. So that is something I am looking forward to. Another thing, a conference that I have enjoyed in the past, while there are some sales pitches and a little bit probably biased in them, we have enjoyed going to Aesthetic Next, just because it has something for everyone on your team, whether it's your admin staff, your esthetician, your injectors, or just a business owner. It really encompasses, like, you can take your entire team to it, which is wonderful. But I think for my providers, what I have found most beneficial is bringing in trainers to focus on our exact needs. I like the conferences. It does sometimes cloud the waters if you get home and like your entire staff's like, "Oh, we got to bring this on," and you're like, "Whoa,
Yeah.
whatever." That's not
The post
exactly
event
how.
excitement,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's not exactly how
Calm
it
down a
works.
little
But
bit.
yeah, so that's. But it does get your team excited. So there is
Yeah.
benefit there. It gets your team excited. They get to hear about one thing. I always am like, oh man, they're sitting here like hearing how we are doing everything right. Because you always wonder, like, well, how's everyone else doing out there?
Mhm.
So it is good for that aspect, but I love bringing in just personal trainers from all over to help specific needs to address specific pain points of our practice.
So how about just on the kind of educational theme a little bit as well? If you reflect over your career, is there any particular piece of advice that you've received that has really stood you well growing your business and impacting patients?
Well, I think I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but always just treating someone better than anyone else. I think that that's something I always try to think about. But also, as far as like the business side of things, I think the best advice for me personally that has helped me be able to do all the things that I do is remembering that work is not your life. And I think it's very easy when you own a business to like be so engulfed in that. I am fortunate enough to have other owners with me. I'm one of four owners, and we are all really good friends. So I get to have the downtime that I need to not get burnt out. And I do a lot of things that could easily get burnt out. And sometimes they see me getting burnt out. And they're like, "Hey, let me do that for you. You go take a break." Taking time to yourself, spending time with your family, none of it's worth it in the end if you aren't with the people that you love, because eventually the business is like, it's not going to be here forever. I really think like taking some time and taking some breathers, and it also helps you for your patients. You're always refreshed and you're excited. You're not coming in just torn down. So I think really just like personal care is really important too.
Mhm. For sure. What are some of the top things you like to do to unwind with your family, for example?
We travel all the time, all the time.
Awesome.
We love to travel. We're gone probably once a month.
Very cool. Any
Yeah.
particular destinations you have coming up this year? I know the summer is kind of behind us right now. Anywhere exciting that you went over the summer?
We are always somewhere in the Carolinas,
All
but we
right.
always, and then we take the boys. I have a 3 and a 5-year-old, and we go to Disney every year. So we'll be going to Disney again soon as well. So, and we like camp too. We have a big camper. So we're always the friends and family doing something somewhere.
Awesome. That's exciting. So yeah, definitely the start. You've got Mickey Mouse, and then you've got, is it up in the Blue Ridge? Is that where you guys normally go?
We usually go like down towards like Hilton Head, South
Gotcha.
Carolina. Yeah.
Haven't been there just yet, but I'll have to keep that on the
Yeah.
list.
We love it. We love it down there.
Okay, what about when things that are kind of coming up for you on the business side? Like what's coming up next? When you look at, you've got the expansion coming up,
Mhm.
so obviously that's very exciting, and you've got plans to execute there. When you look forward to the next 3 to 5 years, where do you see everything for Aesthetics Lounge, KMAP, and the mission that you're moving forward on?
So yeah, we're renovating, we're expanding. For aesthetics, I mean, we want to have multiple locations. We have some of our owners live in several different places. We want to be able to provide care wherever we are. So we would love to see more practices opening, but we are very focused on getting our practice all the systems very much in place so that we don't leave anyone hanging. So on the business side is really making sure, like, we're working a lot on the clinical aspect of making sure our providers feel very confident in the treatments they're providing this year, but we're also working a ton on our customer service and patient experience as well. So we've even brought in like trainers for that as well to make sure the whole cohesive team is on the same page. The patients are getting a really good experience when they're in our practice, so that that can trickle down for when we are ready to open other practices. And then KMAP, yeah, I mean, KMAP is a side job for everyone who's part of it, and it's grown amazingly, just it being that. But we do want to continue to grow our membership in Kentucky, to be able to offer that support for providers out there. And I do meet providers at a lot of different conferences that are like, "Oh, can it come to Florida?" And we're like, "Well, maybe, but I could tell you how to do it in Florida." So we have met with a few people before, just like kind of just giving them the tools to be able to do it there. Um, so just growing that as well, because there's these communities within primary medicine that they have each other to lean on. They have these resources. So really bringing that, what we're looking to bring that to Kentucky. We have, even we're partnered with plastic surgeons, vascular surgeons, ophthalmologists to have these resources for our patients and our providers, so they feel truly supported, and then hopefully they don't, they have the tools to treat safely and they don't have these complications. But if they do, they have these resources to help with these things too.
Tremendous, tremendous. Well, so much goals and insights and knowledge shared. Any other key insights, Katie, before we wrap up the show today? Anything else you'd like to share with the audience?
I mean, I just am so appreciative for you having me on the show. I love helping anyone I can. I mean, I speak with providers all over the country. So, and I love learning from providers all over the country. So I just love that networking aspect of this all. And I love that you're able to streamline this to everyone to hear, so that hopefully they can take a little pearl away from it as well.
For sure. Absolutely. And we'll be sharing, this information in show notes and on the podcast page. But for anybody who might like to connect with you, either professionally, personally, what's the best way for them to do that, Kate?
Honestly, like through social media. My Instagram is Katie MP for Aesthetics Lounge. So I'm super easy to find. I'm always on there. It's nonstop. I'm always on it. It's like texting me. So super easy to find. And then you can link through all my business pages from there too.
Perfect. We'll make sure to link to all that. And Katie, I can't really, come close to expressing my gratitude for joining the show today. It's been a pleasure to get to meet you. And I know our audience are going to be enthralled to listen and to learn from some of the just the nuggets, the playbook almost that you set here for doing things the right way, that having the right outcomes for patients and growing your business to be sustainable, and having that network effect and that education at the center of everything you do is kind of a compass, I think, to be pointed in the right direction. So thanks so much for joining the show. We really appreciate you being here today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Hey, it's Brett here with ClinicGrower, and I've got a quick favor to ask. If you're loving the Aesthetics Growth podcast, go ahead and hit that like or hit that subscribe, more importantly, so that we can keep bringing you the best of the industry. I really want this to be impactful and the highest quality, and the best way that you can help us to do that is to hit that like, hit that subscribe. And remember, if you would like to be a guest on the Aesthetics Growth podcast, go to clinicgrower.com/podcast.
This is the Aesthetics Growth Podcast.